My grandfather was funny. My dad was funny. Actually, my mom's actually funny. You know, we don't tell her she's funny, but she's funny. So when I say it's a family-owned business, I can look over to the wall and say that my one brother painted this. My dad built this. It's really cool to know that we were just all involved as a family.
I think that comedy is very important. I think that it changes people's perception of things. Like you can hear something and then disagree with it and then hear a comedian explain it and then you're like, oh, that's a funny take on it that I would never have thought about.
When I hear somebody with a funny laugh, then I start laughing and then the whole place starts laughing.
Huge fan of comedy and comedians, so getting an hour-long movie about how comedians have been adapting during the pandemic is just so interesting to me. I could watch like 2 more hours of this. Yeah, I loved it, and I thought it just had a great message of like adapting and kind of pushing through these hard times. And there were so many great moments, but one of the quotes that stuck with me actually came at the end when that comic, I think his name was Casey, said, "If you give a fuck, things will happen." And I don't know, I just really loved that.
Such a great documentary. I really enjoyed watching it. I really appreciated hearing about all the struggles that comedians and comedy clubs had when the pandemic hit. And it was so inspiring to hear about the grit and tenacity that they had to just keep putting on shows. And not just to, make a living, but also to connect with people and to make them laugh because they needed it. At the beginning of the pandemic, I remember reading a tweet about how when we are all stuck in our homes and we're all isolated, it's going to be the arts that gets us through. And this was so true. And I thought of that when I was listening to them talk about how people were coming to rooftop comedy shows in January because they needed to. So overall, I thought this was a really good documentary. And I love that we got a lot of really good jokes in there too, because there were a lot of really funny comedians. So great job.
Really interesting. It was great to have some of the jokes there and hear the different comics share their experiences and how they were impacted and how they pivoted, and just seeing all of that footage. I thought it was a really interesting and funny documentary.
I really like the art. I really like and appreciate the art of stand-up comedy, the skill, the craft of stand-up comedy. So to see it broken down, kind of behind the scenes of like what comedians go through, was really interesting, and even more interesting off of how did the industry change in response to COVID. I think that was something that I never thought about, I never knew about before. So this was a good learning experience off that. And yeah, it was really interesting. I really it was funny. The clips of the comedians had me rolling, and I want to know more about them all. But yeah, it was a cool concept for a documentary, because I always say a documentary rise and dies on the subject matter, and like with stand-up comedy, you got me. I love stand-up comedy, so this was great subject matter in my book. So yeah, good job.
I really liked it. I think that the filmmaker does a great job at kind of capturing this moment and getting a lot of really interesting people to be talking heads and give their perspective, because comedians are like, that's the bread and butter, is telling stories and having a take. And so I think that it's from the beginning, it's kind of set up for success. And I think the filmmakers do a great job at, basically giving these people a microphone to share their perspective. And I think it's what, short documentaries are for, is telling like a very specific perspective that a lot of people wouldn't otherwise see. And I think I just thought that I think it succeeded its its potential in the sense that I think that it like this will probably age very well, in the sense that people in the future will be able to watch it and get a true sense of what it's like to be a comedian during this time. So yeah, great job.
This was outstanding. I, first of all, had no idea what the comedy world was going through during the pandemic. So having someone to shoot this and create this documentary and ask these people these questions and get these answers from these comics and club owners and pretty much everyone involved in the industry who was affected by the pandemic is amazing. It's incredible. It's a beautiful capture of what they've been going through for the last 2 years and how they've pivoted and how they've changed and how they've grown. So this is amazing. The writing is great. The way it's shot is fantastic. The direction is spot on. The people that they chose to highlight and focus on, perfect. Really, really great. I loved everything about this. It was fantastic. And congratulations. It's a really beautiful piece. And I'm glad that you guys made this because it's important. It's important for people to see it and understand that, comedy is an important art form and it's essential for our mental health. So thanks for making this. It was
I
important.
thought this one was really well done. It's as if you had given the idea of comedy special its own stand up. Really, there's just a lot of good humor in here, but a lot of real stories. You almost get this nostalgic sense looking back at what was only 2 years ago. And I think it was just sort of enlightening to again be reminded and learn about also just the different struggles of the different people involved, be it the club proprietors or the talent, and to kind of just hear their stories and really see the connection and the through line. And that's just great editing and direction here. Just finding those similar threads and putting it together in a really smart, cohesive, and entertaining way. This is ultimately a documentary, but also very entertaining because there's just some funny and talented people right there giving their all. So really a strong one, worth checking out.
We've all been through a lot in these last few years, and we've had to deal with business closures and things like that. But it's really it's neat to take us into. They're taking us into the world here, the comedy world, and showing us specifically what happened with them, during this time, and it got into a kind of detail that most of us probably, just didn't really think about or understand that these comedians and club owners were having to deal with. So that was really great because it gave me a chance to kind of look back and gave me a different way to direct empathy. There's all kinds of empathy to be handed out here during this time. And this really got me thinking very specifically about the stand-up world and the club world here. So that was really terrific. I really like what the one club owner was saying about how before, they were getting spoiled because they could get all these amazing comedians to come out on one bill on a Monday night. And everything was just so perfect all the time. And at this point now, everybody's very grateful for what they get. And how universal is that thought and that sentiment? That applies across everything, So, it was really nice to get the comedy perspective, the stand-up and the club owner perspective to speak that to us, because it made us all think about our lives and our worlds and what we're going through too, So, I felt so much empathy coming out to me from the screen here, from everybody being interviewed and everybody talking here. So it was just a wonderful job on this piece. And, I just want to thank you guys for making it. Thank everybody that was involved here. It was a great idea to do it to begin with. And, it was well directed. It was well edited, paced, good use of score. Everybody was funny. Everybody was enjoyable and likable. So, great job, guys. I really enjoyed it. And so I hope this gets out there and helps people. And, best of luck to everybody as the world starts crawling back. I hope you're all able to get back to work again, but I can see that you've all pivoted during this hard time. So, things aren't going to be the same. They're going to be better. Thanks.